This is Dads Watching Sports. It's the show by dads who watch sports, for dads who watch sports, or just dads in general. Here are the dads with a plan for every hashtag dad life and sports fan, Kyle Castles and Michael Draper.
And there it is. And here we are. We are the dads who watch sports on the Off the Ball Network. He is Kyle Castles. I am Michael Draper, and thank you so much for joining us. Kyle, over the last couple of weeks and months, we have mentioned that we are presented by Manscaped, great business there that keep you nice and trim and slim and clean and mean and all the fun little adjectives you want to throw out there. But Kyle, guess what?
Slim? Hey, wait, slim?
Well, I mean, it's,
slim?
To an extent, one can always dream. We are no longer presented by Manscaped.
That's probably good, because I don't think I got through one Manscaped read without completely correct.
It was, I would imagine the live reads that we'll get for our new sponsor are going to be not quite as entertaining, but as the Manscaped ones. But that's okay, because now, Kyle, we are powered by MyBookie.
MyBookie. MyBookie. MyBookie and me.
Very nice. Very nice. I was going to say, not to be confused with my Wookie. But this is MyBookie. Kyle, she's got that book, and now we've got that book, and it is MyBookie, which we're very excited about. Chris and the guys from Off the Ball will send us some live reads, on which I'm looking forward to. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, Kyle, there will be some. She got that book projected into that read, without a doubt, which will be very, very exciting. For those of you that have no idea what we're talking about, don't worry about it. You don't need to know.
You don't need to know.
You don't need to
as
know.
long as you know she got the book. That's all it needs to be known.
That is all that needs to be known, and it had been gotten. That's for sure. Jack thinks the singing is hilarious. Kyle, so you're already cracking jokes. Your son's excited. Probably more singing than he's heard from you in quite some time, which is very exciting.
I'm probably in a better mood than I was when I last saw him, because I'm a Cubs fan. Wrigley is a Cubs fan. Lauren and Jack are both Dodger fans, and the Dodgers are playing the Cubs right now. And it is 7-1 Dodgers after a grand slam and a 2-run shot in the second, and there was all sorts of trash talk being sent my way from a 4-year-old.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch indeed. Well, Kyle, it's episode 70 of the show. It's Sunday, June the 27th. We've got a great show for you today. We were going to have a guest on, David Kirsch, as a coworker of mine, golfer extraordinaire, sports fanatic, also dad, of course, and had some stuff come up. He's not going to be able to make it tonight, so it's just the Dos Amigos getting ready for a big show. We got a lot to talk about, Kyle. There's a lot of sports stuff going on right now. So we got a lot of sports topics, and of course we got to get to our best venue in sports bracket. We're in the Sweet 16, which I'm very excited about. We'll get to those matchups, and we put it out to the Twitterverse, and Twitter has spoken, Kyle. We've got winners in all of our matchups for the tweeters. We'll compare those votes to ours, and we'll settle on the final 8, which is very exciting. But let's get into a few things, Kyle. There's a couple of things that I wanted to get into before we really hit the sports topics hard. And one of these things I didn't even tell you about before the show, but this is a subject of the kind of day that we've had here in the Draper house. And so I need some advice. I need some parenting advice. It's just you and I talking here. Nobody else is listening. Nobody even cares. It's just you and I. And I need some advice.
All right.
So here's the thing. This seems to kind of be bubbling its head a little bit, coming around a bit more often than maybe usual with our kids, and specifically our daughter, who's 5 or will be 5 in September. And that's this continued effort on our part to teach them to be appreciative of opportunity to do things that are fun, and then to couple that with say, hey, you know what? I had a lot of fun over the past couple of days. My parents did some really cool things. We got to do some fun things. It's been a great weekend. I'm going to act I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to listen. I'm going to do the things that I'm supposed to do. I'm going to be nice to them. So here, I'll give you a little background. So over the weekend, on Friday, we picked the kids up. We went to our neighborhood pool, hung out with some friends there. We're there for like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, ate dinner there. Like just had a really good time. Came home, relaxed evening, finished it up. Saturday, we get up. We have a good morning. We go to our church where they've got bounce houses and games and all kinds of fun stuff. Fantastic. Some other friends meet us there. We hang out with them. We go to lunch. Fast forward to that afternoon. We go to some other friend's house where there's bounce houses. We go to another pool. We hang out. We eat pizza, like all this fun stuff. And then today, our kids, I would use a term that's not appropriate on the Dads Watching Sports airwaves, that's blank heads. But that's essentially what they were today, especially after, quote, nap time when that didn't happen. And we keep going back to this, like, do y'all not recognize that we've done all these things and we do these fun things because we love you, but we also expect in turn that you will be appreciative and that you'll say, hey, mom and dad set up this fun stuff for us to do all weekend. I'm not going to act like an idiot or a moron or a mean person or whatever. I'm going to show appreciation to them. So my question to you is, because we have failed at this because we cannot get our kids to show that. Have you been able to do that? And if so, can you please bestow some of your parenting advice on someone such as myself?
We work on that all the time. So I know I teach high school kids, but I know a little bit about child development through school as well. And what I have learned is that a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, what they did yesterday is ancient history. It's gone. It's done. It has no bearing on today, which is a good and bad thing. Quite frankly, a 4 or 5-year-old, what happened 2 or 3 hours ago is ancient history and has no bearing on what's going on right now.
Yep.
Which is good, right? Because when you come down hard on your kid, like you give it 2 or 3 hours and you might still be feeling this, like maybe did I come down too hard or you're still angry, whatever it is, right? And they have blown right past it. And it's, I want daddy snuggles or whatever it is, right?
Right. Sure. Yeah.
That is a big deal. And the other thing is, man, we say this a lot, especially because like my kids, one's born in September, one in November, one in December, plus we have Thanksgiving and Christmas in there. So like it's family constantly. They're always getting whatever they want around family. And we tell them, like, you've had too much. With my wife's family, with her parents being divorced, we have a lot of different Christmases, and just there comes a point where like they're Christmased out because that entitlement just grows as they keep things keep being given to them. So at some point you just got to say, you know what, we're going to take some time to just chill, and you get nothing.
Yep. Well, and that's the exact conversation that we had. And I'll throw this comment. Eric Jackson says, too much fun wears them out and makes them demons. And that is the absolute truth. Hopefully we'll eventually get to that point where that appreciation starts to come in. But yeah, I mean, what you said is absolutely true. We've had that conversation with our daughter, especially like Emma, you need to recognize, like, not everybody gets to have the things that you have. Not everybody gets to have the pretty dresses that you have that you then in turn spill nail polish on and ruin. Not everybody gets to have the vacations that you get to go on or the things that you do or simply a bed to sleep in. And I know that she doesn't get that. And that's incredibly hard for her to understand, if at all. But we just try to keep reiterating that, like, you've got to be thankful. You've got to be appreciative. And then especially when things are going well and you're getting things that you enjoy, you need to reciprocate that. And I'm trying not to use that word, but you need to pay that forward back to mommy and daddy or someone else or whatever. And it's just, that's the life that we're in right now, man. It's just,
yes, it is
survival. I
can tell you that I have, and I'm pretty sure Lauren has, pointed out to the kids, I'll use terms that maybe our listeners don't know, but I know you'll know. You're driving through Brentwood, right? You're right there on Old Hickory, where Old Hickory hit 65, right? And you got the homeless people that are on both ends there trying to sell the $1 newspaper and have that conversation about, look, these people are homeless. They don't have a place to live. We're very lucky in what we have. Trying to show them, like, this is what it looks like. This is a real human being that does not have a home. And I don't know if that works. I don't know if that helps, but it's just something I do from time to time.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I think doing those types of things, if you just continue to reiterate, those things will eventually sink in. And our kids are too young to understand that. But I think they'll be, in 5 years, Wrigley's going to remember that you said that and just be like, man, I feel very blessed. And, I do have a couple of bucks that I can potentially spare this person because I know that I'm in a much better place off than they are. Eric also jumps in and says, same conversation we have with our kids constantly. I guess that's the only solace to this is that we're all going through the same thing. And that my kids aren't turds as much as I think they are. They're just, 4 and 5-year-olds. So that's
exactly.
That's good. All right, Kyle. So another very controversial topic or something that I wanted to get your take on. But first, I have a question for you. Do you like waffles, Kyle?
You know me, right? You've seen me. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that you have spent the night at my parents' house with me when we were like middle school, and my mom got up and made waffles for us the next morning.
Yes.
Which I don't know how we were getting up after staying up as late as we did, how we were getting up for breakfast the next day. But
yeah, it was probably breakfast at like 1 o'clock.
Maybe that's what you want.
1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Hey, you know what? Thank you, Donna. So speaking about being appreciative,
of
thank
course,
you, Donna, for the waffles.
Absolutely, yes. We may not have voiced that thanks at that point in time, but yes, thank you. So, Kyle, have you seen this story that broke last week? And I meant to have mentioned this on our show with Matt last week because I think it'd been great to get both of y'all's takes on this, but. Did you see the story about the Fantasy Football League where they made the bet and the loser of the league had to spend 24 hours in a Waffle House?
I did see that.
So for those of you that are listening that may not have seen this yet, or those of you that are watching, so again, Fantasy Football League, like a lot of us are in every single year, the loser of it has to spend 24 hours in a Waffle House. The caveat being for every waffle eaten, that's an hour removed off of that person's time staying in the Waffle House. And so this got like national news where this guy put it out on Twitter. He gave kind of a play-by-play over the course of a couple hours. If I remember correctly, I think he ate 9 waffles over the course of the time. And he was there for, I guess, would have been 13 hours or 15 hours and 9 waffles. Was there, I think, from around 1 p.m. to the next, maybe 7 a.m. the next morning. So a long day, a lot of waffles. I think at one point in time, he went outside and relieved himself of some waffles. So, Kyle, my question to you first is, if you're in that situation, 24 hours in a Waffle House, you get an hour removed for every waffle that you eat. How much time are you taking off the clock? How many waffles are you putting down?
So I've never tried to see how many waffles I could put down. Here's what I will say, though. There was a time, and I don't know if they still do, but there was a time when IHOP had all-you-could-eat pancakes.
Yep.
And I went in there in one sitting and put down 13 pancakes. Now, I did that. I had nothing to drink. I did not put syrup on it. I did not put butter on it. I wanted just the bread because any type of liquid you put on top, it just expands. The bread expands in your stomach. At least that's what I had going on in my head. So if I can eat 13 pancakes in one sitting, I think I could sit down and put away in the first hour or two. In the first hour, I could probably put 4 to 6 pancakes or waffles away. And then by the next, here's the thing, in 24 hours, I could probably do 10 to 15 waffles. I fully believe that. And that would really start to cut my time down.
Right. And I think, it's all kind of about strategy. Like, I know that this guy used syrup on a handful of them and he stopped going. He kind of went away from it. And some people were talking about, like, man, if you had something to keep it, moist and it maybe go down a little bit better. But yeah, I was thinking about this myself. I was like, I mean, I love waffles. I love Waffle House. So this whole bet, I was like, man, that doesn't sound like much of a punishment. Like that seems like a
I
great
would
time.
be happy with that one.
And you and I both know the stories that you see of like a late night Waffle House trip, depending on where you are.
Don't touch on the shop.
That's right. You don't touch the knives. Yeah, you don't want to bleed on my knives. Just the stories alone that you get at Waffle House in the middle of the night are fantastic. I would say I'm probably somewhere around where he was. I mean, I think he did like 2 and then did 2 more and then got to 6 and then really hit a wall and then only got 3 over the last couple hours. I'm probably somewhere in that 9 to 10. Yeah. And I wonder, like, I haven't really seen much more about this, but I wonder, like, did he do prep? Like, did he eat like really earlier that morning and then not eat anything the rest of the day? Or did he go in not eating anything? Did he eat a balanced meal before that? Like, I need a little bit more information. But I think I'd probably been about that 9 or 10. But again, I got to spend 15 hours in Waffle House. I'm not overly disappointed in that. No. Got a nice jukebox. You got, I would imagine the staff kept him entertained. And
I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. So last question about this. If we were to do this, so if we put out the Dads Watching Sports Fantasy Football League next year and we said, okay, the loser restaurant of your choice that you got to spend 24 hours in if they're open, let's put figuratively if they were open 24 hours and kind of a similar situation, Kyle, where are you going?
So my thought, do you remember, again, like personal stuff that nobody else is going to care about but me and you, but this is just me and you talking, right?
Right, yeah, this is our show. We're the dads.
Do you remember I'm going to say the night before my wedding, but it was actually like 2 or 3 in the morning because we had shut down the bars on Broadway in Nashville, and we ran through White Castle.
I do.
I'm thinking White Castle, like a 24-hour, that White Castle, like right there. Gotta go spend 24 hours in White Castle. And I can't do I don't know what the right number is, but for every 4 White Castle little burgers you eat, you get to knock off an hour. Maybe that would be decent. Just because, like, I can't stand White Castle. I don't know what had me wanting to eat White Castle that night.
White Castle's gross, man.
It tore up my stomach the next morning.
It's so gross.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, there's no way that I could do that. Not to cop out here, but I would. Waffle House would be one of my contenders for sure.
Oh, that's the right answer.
That is the right answer.
You asked me for another one.
Yeah, so come up with I think if I had to choose one, and I'd have to figure out what it would be that you would eat, and maybe it's okay. We'll go with this, Kyle. So loser of the Dads Watching Sports Fantasy Football bracket, if in a world where this restaurant was open 24 hours, they're making the trip wherever they live. They're going to make a trip to the All-American city, Kyle. I'm talking Tupelo, Mississippi, the All-American city, and they are going to Las Margaritas, where for every hour that they finish a basket of chips and salsa, they get 1 hour removed from their 24 hours. And if they want to sneak in some fajitas nachos mixed with no vegetables, watch out for that hot plate. They can.
Okay, so it's funny you say that. I had fajita nachos for dinner tonight.
Very nice.
But I have grown up. It's no longer mixed with no vegetables. Tonight it was chicken and chorizo with all the veggies. There you go. And not one piece of anything was left.
As it should not have been. All right, Kyle, one last thing. We're going to go to a quick break here. I can guarantee you that this is the first time that we've ever talked about this on this show, and it will probably very well be the last. But did you see
something else crazy happens?
Did you see what happened yesterday at the Tour de France?
Yeah, it's stage 1, right? Like, I'm not crazy. That was
stage one. Like, it had just started. Things were getting rolled off, and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And Kyle, a very overanxious or overzealous fan with a very large cardboard sign. I don't know if it was on purpose, but it was very misplaced.
Yes.
Biker runs into it. Cyclist, runs into it. And that starts the domino effect of what looked like about 80 cyclists then toppling over.
Yeah.
Just unbelievably unfortunate. You think of that fan, Kyle. What is the what's the adequate punishment for a fan? I mean, there's no way around it. That fan caused that accident and caused all that. Mm-hmm. What is the proper punishment for that fan?
I fully believe she deserves to spend time in jail. I don't know how long. I don't know. But there's, and I don't know the proper term. I probably should have talked to my lawyer wife. She'd give me the right term. But there's got to be something that she put. And then all of those cyclists were put into danger. I mean, we have seen people get really badly hurt in a wreck. Because, I mean, they're not – this isn't like, 10-year-olds riding their bike on the street. These bikes are going 20, 30 miles an hour. That's enough to really hurt somebody if they crash. She deserves to go spend some time in jail for putting people in that kind of danger.
Jail time.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I don't know that I can jump on jail time. And I if anybody's watching our live stream, feel free to chime in with what you think is the proper punishment. I don't know that I could go as far as jail time. I mean, I think you're thinking like, was this intent? What was their intent there? Was it a complete accident? And so I think there's definitely like that person will never be invited back to any type of Tour de France event again. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they could equivalate this into money, but I think there would have to be some sort of fine or, do they pay for the damages of the bike? There's got to be some there has to be some sort of punishment. I mean, I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah.
Jail time seems a little steep to me, but I mean, in the land of Castle's discipline, maybe it's not jail time. It is. All right, sir. Well, we're going to come back. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got some name, image, and likeness stuff going on. Okay, the lawyer chimes in. Negligence, reckless endangerment, jail time is extreme. No mercy, Kyle. For a guy who says you have a hard time disciplining your children, man, you're just ready to throw out some jail time.
Hey, look, I love my kids. I don't care about this woman.
Eric says it's a form of assault. I would think the fact that he already got on a flight is out of the country makes him look even more guilty. That's true. I hadn't seen that, but yeah, if they were already out of the country, maybe it was on purpose. Who knows? You never know what's with fans nowadays. I guarantee you now people are missing the days of which there were not fans present in events because that would definitely not have happened.
I'd much rather have fans.
Well, I'm sure you would, but I'm saying I guarantee you those cyclists may not be thinking that same thing. So, all right, Kyle, we'll come back talking name, image, and the likeness. It's the big topic across college sports. We'll be right back. Big news in the Dads Watching Sports podcasting world. You've heard us mention it on the show already. We are now part of the Off the Ball Podcast Network. We're super excited to be joining the team of great shows, hopefully adding a little dad flavor to the mix. You can check out Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network on all your social media sites. Just search Off the Ball Network. And while you're there, give them a like and a follow. You won't regret it. Welcome back to Dads Watching Sports. Michael Draper and Kyle Castles. We are powered by MyBookie on the Off the Ball Network, and we are now talking some college sports. Kyle, we've been on this train for a long time now, or the college sports world has. Players being able to make some money off of basically themselves, their talents, their name, image, and likeness. It's really something that's kind of been around since, I don't know if you remember the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit against EA Sports way back in the day and against the NCAA. And it's really all kind of coming to a head now as players are wanting to get paid. And, the thing that's interesting, Kyle, is the NCAA's they've kind of known about that this was coming down the pipe for about 2 years. They've had 2 years to essentially get a plan together. And here we are 4 days before July 1st when everything's going to kind of come to a head. And people are scrambling. NCAA showing its hindsight once again, as it often does, and that won't be the only topic we're talking about that here, and we'll get into another one of those just in a second. But you look at this, Kyle, and you've got on July 1st, we know that it's coming. July 1st, any athlete who attends a school in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi State, or Mississippi, New Mexico, and Texas, it's wide open. They can start making money off of themselves. I've seen athletes from the University of Kentucky putting on their Twitter page like, hey, my DMs are open. Come get me. I'm ready to sign some contracts and make some money. So what do you think? Like, what kind of happens here over the next couple of days, and how do you think this is all going to play out as we head towards college football next fall?
Well, what you're going to see, I think, is you're going to see the power structure in college sports change. The NCAA. So there was a court case, and forgive me, I don't remember the court case, but it was a Supreme Court decision that came out last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. And basically, who was it? Not Kavanaugh. It was one of the two, the other Trump appointee, and I know my AP Gov kids are listening. They're like, "Oh, Castles don't even remember the names." You're right, I don't, but they should be used to that. I always go blank on my names and my words. But there was because it wasn't Barrett either. I forget who it was. One of the justices came out and wrote a concurring opinion. So, like, I think it was a unanimous decision, or it was a 6-1 decision. It was all one-sided. But the concurring opinion basically came out and said that the NCAA had a monopoly, and due to, under antitrust law, should be broken up because they are essentially telling their employees that you can't make any more money, and that's not right. So break up the antitrust. I think conferences on July 1, the Power Five just need to come out and say, if you play in the SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, you can make money off yourself. And put a caveat in there and say you got to work through the school. Like, you can't, do whatever. But I mean, there's different ways they're going to do this, right? If you're a Clemson fan, and let's not do Clemson. If you're an Alabama fan, and Bryce Jones, or whatever his name is, Bryce Young, there you go. And Bryce Young has a cameo, or there's another company, I forget what it's called, and you can send him $20 and he'll send you like a 1-minute video. Bryce Young should be able to do that, no questions asked. And I think the SEC just needs to say, work through your school so the school gets a little bit of a kickback, and that way the school's happy. And I know that sounds terrible, but like, I'm okay with that. But I think conferences are going to, the Power Five. I mean, we heard this maybe 2 years ago about the Power Five splitting from the NCAA, and NCAA football for non-Power Five conferences. Power Five is going to be over here. We're going to be making money. Kids will be making money. All the money is going to be over here because nobody's going to tune in for Toledo and Akron for the NCAA title. So there you go. That's my take.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out over the next couple of weeks. Because I mean, kids that are attending those schools that kind of have wide open free reign, they're going to get contacted. You think of it like you just mentioned, Alabama. Okay, they're the only show in town. They're the only show in the state. And you think of this, all the businesses that are going to want to have their top players as the face of their business. The thing that I think is going to be very interesting, and I don't know that this will happen all that much, because I think coaches are going to be in the ears of these players and say, hey, use your judgment when going into business or going into an agreement or whatever you want to say with another business or group. But if it happens and there's we'll say it's a player that's actually eligible to do this. So let's say it's a junior or senior, or maybe a senior in college. They're already 21 years old, and then they get the liquor barn down the street that says, hey, we want you to come down and be on our commercial. Something that may not exactly be that might be frowned upon by the coaching staff and the athletics department. Now, I'm just interested to see what happens when that kind of stuff happens, where there's some advertising and some opportunities that are for businesses and institutions that don't exactly align with the thinking of good wholesome college athletics. And not to say that those individuals shouldn't take advantage of that if somebody reaches out to them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got, you got the local establishment down the street that employs ladies to further their college education, if they jump on and says, hey, we'd like to have somebody come on and be our representative from the University of Nebraska's football team, are they able to do that?
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I'm very interested to see what happens.
Your list of states, did you say Virginia?
I believe Virginia. Are they up now? Or are they coming? I know that there's dates all over the place. Where some states get it in now. Some it's like next year. I didn't say anything about Virginia.
Okay. No, when you started going through that, and I was like, okay, so you got Malik. Is it Malik Wills, quarterback out of Liberty? That a lot of people are saying. Yeah. A lot of people are saying it's a first round pick. Like, what is? And you're talking Virginia. There's liquor companies up there. I guarantee you, there's probably a strip club or two somewhere around. Is it Lynchburg, Virginia, or wherever Liberty is? I guarantee you, there's something that Liberty. A school like Liberty University, right? Jerry Falwell founded this school, right? Like, there's gonna have to be some sort of school signing off on this because they're not going to want. Right. Or just the school doesn't have the logo on it, right? So like he can't walk in and say, "I am the Liberty quarterback. I'm just Malik Wills or whatever his name is."
Right. Yeah, and like I said, I would imagine that the coaches. I mean, they've known this is coming, and I can imagine they've had the conversations with players to say, "Hey, look, I'm here to support you. Let me help you through this process. Just know that there are some that we may have to turn down, and that's okay. We'll find you something else." Yeah. So thinking across the board, and we'll move on from this topic, but you got, football and basketball programs kind of across the board that this is going to be a huge change for. Who are those programs, top two or three from each? Who are those top 2 or 3 programs in football and basketball that you feel like are going to benefit the most from this in terms of I say the program, and then players from the program will benefit the most?
Yeah. Alabama. So I'll start with football. Alabama has got to be at the top. I mean, it's Nick Saban. It's the dynasty. They'll be, and the quarterback is definitely going to be there. Alabama's got so many new faces in different places. I can't give you names other than Bryce Young. So whoever it is that steps up and becomes the name, right? At Alabama, he'll make a ton of money. Yeah. I don't think South Carolina is in the list for July 1. I don't think. If I'm wrong, correct me. But whenever they can, Clemson's going to do the same thing. DJ, I won't attempt. It starts with a U, and it's Samoan, and I'm not going to attempt to say his name. But DJ will make a lot of money once he can. And there's only one school that has its own network, and that is the University of Texas. Longhorn Network. Look, those kids. And the University of Texas at Austin is the school in Texas. I mean, I understand A&M's there. I understand there's all sorts of other UT schools, right? San Antonio, El Paso, whatever.
Yep.
Nobody cares. It's UT Austin. The eyes over Texas are watching or whatever, however it goes. And so Texas football, if you're the guy at Texas football, you're going to make a ton of money that way. It's when it comes to basketball, Duke and Kentucky, they are basketball schools. They're not football schools. And I understand Kentucky's football team's pretty freaking good now, but they got a heck of a coach. And I'm shocked they've held on to him so long. I'm sure you are too.
No doubt.
But good for Kentucky. But yeah, I mean, Calipari brings in big time recruits. He'll continue to do that. These kids, that they'll be looking at it as a senior in high school going, I can go to Kentucky and be on that stage. I'm going to get, advertising dollars thrown at me. And Duke, Coach K retiring might change that. And if it does, I don't know where the next school is behind Kentucky. But the third school I have there is also Texas because it is freaking Texas. Then I'm pretty sure they have the largest athletic budget in the country, so that's why they're on both lists.
Yeah, I've got them on my football list as well. My other two, I also had Bama. I think Oklahoma. So I was looking through Oklahoma in terms of what their state has done. So they actually passed some legislation from the statewide in May. It doesn't go into effect until July 1st of 2023, but it says the schools can implement the new policy at any time. So basically, the state has said, hey, it will go into effect by here, but if you want to go ahead and do that ahead of time. So I'm sure Oklahoma's going to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. And I just think about these programs that are the program, like they're the only show in town. And that's like Oklahoma, like Alabama in basketball, like Kentucky, like a Kansas. So any of these teams they don't have to deal with professional league teams. They don't have to deal with other big colleges that are around them. And their players can be the face all throughout the state. We're not talking about national commercials. I don't think we're going to get any of that, except for maybe some top few players, around Heisman time, things like that. Maybe some of that stuff will happen. But you think,
look, if you think Nissan's not going to write the Nissan Heisman House or whatever, if you think Nissan hadn't already come up with like a Goldilocks and the Three Bears type thing where like the 3 or 4 Heisman hopefuls are running through the house trying to find their room, even though they're not like in the house yet. Like Nissan, if you use my idea, I would like the money for it.
That's right. Yeah. Go ahead and remember you heard that on Dad's Watching Sports. The other one, and I don't know, I was looking at California. It looks like theirs doesn't go in effect till 2023, but I'm sure something will happen before then. But do you think of like USC and UCLA? I mean, being out in Los Angeles and just from an exposure standpoint of what players there could be. Mm-hmm. So I think those two schools are definitely at the top as well. All right, Kyle, we talked about earlier about the NCAA and in this situation got some egg on its face, and we're trying to figure out what's going on and why they made the decisions. We had a very similar situation out in Omaha this weekend, and it just really kind of breaks your heart for these kids. So NC State, it was really kind of brought up earlier on in the week that they had some issues with COVID. They got to Friday. They had one individual who had tested positive. They had a person who was in close contact. That person ended up testing positive. So it ended up where they had 2 players that were not vaccinated and 2 players that were that kind of showed up on the COVID positive list. The NCAA fumbles it. They end up being able to play the game on Friday against Vanderbilt, but they couldn't play, but with only 13 players. You have to give them credit. NC State made a game of it, only lost 3-1. But then in the middle of the night, literally in the middle of the night at 1 a.m., NC State is informed by the NCAA that their game against Vandy on Saturday is a no contest. Vandy moves on to the College World Series. NC State, who was the hottest team in the country, is sent home packing. What do you make of? Not only of the NCAA, but throwing they're throwing these kids out there and saying, "Oh, they weren't vaccinated," and and now it turns into this whole political thing about vaccinated versus unvaccinated, and when all these kids want to do is just play baseball and have a chance to win a championship.
Yeah. This is terrible. We had Coach Robinson on. He was talking about how they were getting ready to go win their championship, and then COVID hit, and they were on the bus and got to get off. And you can go watch that on Netflix. Last Chance U. Shout out all of that. But man, you hate it for those kids because you're right. They were the hottest team in the nation. They were doing everything right. And COVID hit and COVID struck. And I give the NCAA a little bit of a pass here. If they just say, hey, you know what, we don't really care about COVID because we're this late into the tournament and we're just going to let them play, that's not going to go well either. They're stuck kind of going, what do we do? Right. So I'm going to give the NCAA a little bit of a pass here. I think it was between 1 and 2. I feel like I read or heard somewhere it was 145 when Vandy's coach got word that there was going to be no game Saturday. Quite frankly, it sucks all around. And what I would love to see is Mississippi State or Vanderbilt, whoever wins this series this week, go down and play a couple games with NC State. I know it's not going to happen, but at least we could look at it and go like, okay, who is the better baseball team? but it's still not right because NC State was so hot. Like they're going to have 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is. If they did that, like it still wouldn't be right. But I mean, what do? You got a global pandemic. You got COVID-19 everywhere. What do you do?
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. I don't know that there was a right move. I think we've talked about that for the past year and a half. When all these decisions have been made, there's not a right move. There's not a playbook on how to go about doing this.
Yeah,
I think it was just the way it was all kind of delivered. And I mean, I the one thing I will say is everybody knew about this going into the baseball season and the regionals and the super regionals and the College World Series is that if something happened, this is what the outcome was going to be. And so I think, while I think it's completely unfair to those kids, but I agree with you in the fact that I don't know that it's anyone's fault necessarily. It's just an unfair situation. This is the world that we live in. I'd also say that it's not fair to Vandy for people to kind of pile on Vandy and say, oh, well, if they win, there's going to be an asterisk. Well, I mean, they also had their the two best pitchers in baseball going up against NC State. So not to say that they would have not won those games anyways, but they probably would have won those games anyways. And so I don't get all the hate for Vandy and people saying, oh, well, now Vandy's going to look out and have a chance. And now they've got their number one going into the Monday game when they wouldn't have had that. I mean, that's just the way sports work. And that's just the way sports work when we're doing a pandemic.
They don't have their number one. I mean, Kamar Rocker's their one, not Al Leiter, but his son. And I've gone blank on his son's first name, but Jack Leiter. I mean, Jack's there too. He's going to pitch Monday. Mississippi State's going to lose. And you may see Kumar Rocker on Wednesday if it gets there. But that's a maybe completely. Yeah. So I don't know that we see Kumar Rocker in this championship series. If it only goes 2.
If it goes 2, I don't think we would. Unless I think if State wins that opening game, I could potentially see them bringing him in halfway through game 2 if they've got a lead and they need to hold on. Like if they just need to piece some things together, because at that point in time you're just playing to get a win.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, we've got an all SEC final.
Yep.
Obviously, I know you were extremely biased. I'm a little biased, and it's my alma mater. But in looking at that matchup, on this show last week, you picked Vandy to win the World Series. I picked NC State. Are you sticking with Vandy, or are you going with your heart and letting the Bulldogs win their first ever College World Series championship?
Well, my heart says State. Growing up in Mississippi, going to Mississippi State games, my heart says State, but my head says Vanderbilt. Vandy's got, I think, too much pitching. I don't think State's going to hit. And here's the thing. If State can have a lead going into the 7th, I feel really good about Mississippi State winning that game because Sims has been absolutely lights out. But I don't see State having a lead in game 1. I think Jack Leiter might go 6 or 7 himself, and may go 6 or 7 and not give up a run.
Yeah.
I mean, he's that good. And he doesn't have overpowering stuff. Just his ability to locate is pretty impressive. So with that said, I think Vandy wins it. I think, as much as I hate to say, I think Vandy wins it in 2. But we'll see. We'll see.
Kyle, you ye of little faith, man. Come on now. I was thinking about this last night after watching that State game, and man, I just think this is the year. I mean, I think this is the year they finally break through. And yeah, Vandy starting pitching, especially with Leiter coming in game 1, they're overmatched there, but a lot of people also said they were overmatched against Texas's pitching, and they were able to, hold on long enough and just stay within striking distance. And they got into the back part of that bullpen and then just made some noise. So I think, and it's going to be Duty Noble North
yes, it
there is. For games 1, 2, and 3. I mean, everybody that I know that's a Mississippi State fan, except for you and I that I've talked to, are all going.
Yep.
So it is going to be a maroon and white affair. So I'm going with the Dogs. I think it'll go 3, but I think Mississippi State is going to walk away with their championship, and we'll celebrate. Eric says, Hail State. My father-in-law played baseball for Mississippi State in the early 70s. I believe he still actually still holds the record for state for most triples in a season. So Eric's on board with the Bulldogs. Kyle, it's in your heart, but not your head. I will take the Bulldogs as well. All right, really quickly, Kyle, before we go to one last break and we get into our Sweet 16 of our bracket. Stanley Cup Finals starting up. We got the Tampa Bay Lightning going for their second straight, a repeat, because they won the Stanley Cup Finals last year. Kyle against Les Canadiens, baby. I'm on the bandwagon. I have jumped on full force. If I knew some French, I'd start talking it right now. But who you got? You got the Lightning with a repeat, or the Canadiens who barely even made the playoffs, and here they were down 3-1 to the Maple Leafs, came back, and now here they are, the hottest team in the league. Is Lord Stanley's Cup returning to O Canada?
No. Tampa Bay wins this one. Tampa Bay wins it in 5.
Tampa Bay in 5. Well, Kyle, I've got to be. I'm on this thing full force.
I can tell with your shirt and
hey, man,
Les Canadiens.
That's right. This was purchased out of already knowing that I would be celebrating with my fellow Frenchmen, or Canadians that speak French, a Stanley Cup trophy. So I'm going the Canadiens in 6.
Okay, hang on.
To bring back.
You don't get to say you're a fan of the Montreal Canadiens unless you've had poutine. Have you had poutine?
Poutine. Oh yeah. It's good stuff.
Gravy, cheese curds, French fries.
Well, of course.
Okay.
We had it up in. We were in Vancouver a couple of years ago, and they had some poutine at this little bar and restaurant. We had some oysters and some poutine. And we found out my wife was pregnant, and we've been eating all this food that you're not supposed to eat when you're pregnant. It was a good time.
Were you eating raw oysters? Do you eat raw oysters?
Oh yeah, man, that's good stuff now.
Oh, good for you. My wife won't eat raw oysters, so
that's
I don't get them very often.
Well, I'll tell you what you're going to get, Kyle, and that's a commercial break. And when you come back, we're getting into the Sweet 16 of the best venue in sports bracket. The Twitterverse has spoken, and we will too. Right back after the break. We'll be back. Coming up next week on Dad's Watching Sports, we get into the Elite 8 of the sports venues bracket. We talk some dad life and what else is going on in the world of sports as some champions will be crowned. That and more next week. Stay tuned on Dad's Watching Sports. Welcome back to Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper, Kyle Castles. We are powered by MyBookie on the Off the Ball Network. Kyle, I was talking about needing to learn some French so I can speak fluently with my fellow Canadian brethren once we bring home the cup. But Kyle, did you know that we might need to expand our vocabulary in terms of the languages that we speak? Because Kyle, Dad's Watching Sports is an international show. Did you know this?
Did I know this?
Yes, you knew this.
I didn't know if I was supposed to know this or if I needed to set you up.
Yeah, well, we've talked about it before. We've got our listeners all across the globe, and we want to thank them. So as you're listening to our show or checking us out on our live stream, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us a rating and review. And to our listeners across the globe, Kyle, I'm talking Bublin in Dublin, Ireland. That's right. We're talking our brothers over there across the pond in England. They're very excited about the Wembley matchup coming up here.
Haggis.
That's right. Kyle, we've got some fans in Brazil that have checked out the show. I tell you what, Kyle, and we've got a matchup. So we've got listeners in England and we've got listeners in Brazil. And that is a perfect segue, Kyle, to our first matchup in the tournament. Wembley versus Maracana. So we could lose a whole country of listeners with this vote. It's very, very, very important. And then special shout out to those of us listening or those listening in Frankfurt, Germany as well.
Bratwurst.
If you're checking out the show and you are a service member of the United States at any of those locations, God bless you and thank you for your service. Please reach out to the show sometime. We'd love to hear from you as well. All right, Kyle, here it is, man. We're going to alienate part of our listening audience here. Let's get into the sports venues bracket. The Wembley region, the number 1 seed Wembley Stadium against the 4 seed Maracana. The Twitterverse has spoken, Kyle. I'm going to give them the first vote, and 86% of the vote is in, Kyle, and it goes to Wembley. I'll let you vote second.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the second vote because I don't want to ostracize any of our listeners. So the Twitterverse has spoken and went Wembley. I'm going Maracana, so you're the reason we're going to lose listeners.
All right. That is, I very much appreciate that, Kyle. I can't thank you enough for letting me be the person that lets down a whole country of our greatest followers. You know, Kyle, and as I look through this and I think, okay, you know, you've got Wembley Stadium. So many things have happened there. That's fantastic. I mean, you've mentioned the Davy Boy Smith British Bulldog over Bret Hart 92. I think that's the number 1 moment personally, SummerSlam. And then you got Maracana. I mean, just could be like the global leader for football. Where I mean, the guys like Ronaldo. I'm talking not Ronaldo right now, but Ronaldo back in the day. You got Bebeto, you got Pele, you got the greats. And Kyle, you know, the deciding factor for me is as we are trying not to alienate any of those that may be listening to our show that are just staunch supporters across the globe. Those that are in the Mariel mother country of England, they understand us, Kyle. They're listening to this explanation. They understand us. They understand the English language, but I don't know that our Brazilian friends do. And so when they see that Maracana is lost and they don't hear our high praise for them because they don't understand us, they're not going to know. And so because of that, we got to move them on, man. So I'm going in an upset, a massive upset.
Wow.
The 4 seed Maracana is going to move on and take on the winner of the next matchup. So Wembley out in the Sweet 16. I can't believe it. I would have never picked that. But now to our Brazilian faithful that listen each and every week, you're welcome. I don't know Portuguese for you're welcome, but you're welcome. All right, Kyle. The Maracana will face the winner of the 3-2 matchup. That is Augusta National. That's all keeping it here in the good old US of A against Indy Motor Speedway. I will go first, Kyle. You know, I think that this is a landslide. I'm not even gonna lie here. I think it's a landslide, and I'm going Augusta National winning this matchup. You're nodding your head. Are you going with me?
Yeah, I had Indianapolis Super Speedway going out in the first round. So yeah, I'm definitely okay with sending them home at this point. Give me Augusta National. Give me the Azaleas.
All right. And Augusta National, 73% of the vote for our Twitter vote as well. All right, Kyle, we're going to move. I tell you what, in respect to Wembley, we're going to move across the pond to the Madison Square Garden region. So we'll go there next. And in that matchup, we've got Madison Square Garden, the number 1 seed, against the Astrodome, the 5 seed. We'll go to the Twitter vote first, Kyle. 84% of the vote. This was a landslide. MSG, the Garden, over the Astrodome. Do we even need to take another vote?
No, I think we can let Twitter speak for it. I'm going MSG. My assumption is you were going MSG. It's the Garden. It's the hub of the world in New York City. If you can get over in the Garden, you can get over anywhere. Give me the Garden.
The Garden moves on. Now, this quite possibly could be the best matchup that we've had thus far. It could be the matchup of the bracket, Kyle. I know it means a lot to you. It's near and dear to your heart. I will let you vote first. We've got the 3 seed, rightfully seated, Wrigley Field. You thought they were going out last week, Kyle, but I came through for you. Wrigley Field versus the 2 seed Lambeau Field. Quite a matchup here. I mean, you've got potentially the greatest baseball stadium against the greatest football stadium. They say football is the American sport, Kyle, but baseball is the American pastime.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, Kyle, I will vote first, and then I'll go to you. And if we need a tiebreaker, we'll go to Twitter.
Which means you're picking Lambeau, I'm picking Wrigley, and you're going to let Twitter decide. But go ahead.
Kyle, you know me so well. Kyle, I'll be honest with you. Like it was an easy choice for me last week. I know I gave you a hard time about picking Wrigley over Lambeau over Bryant Denny, but easy choice.
Yeah.
This one I don't know. This one I think this is where the buck stops. You think again, if it was any other matchup, I think here I would probably move Wrigley along, but Lambeau, it's the best NFL football stadium of all time, and I just can't put Wrigley over it, so I'm voting Lambeau. What you got?
I'll be honest. This was really because look, I love my Cubs. You know I'm a huge Cubs fan. I named my son Wrigley, all of that. But you know my heart lives with football.
Of course.
And you know that – well, I don't know if you know this, but – because I don't know if I've ever told you. But, I mean, that was when you're young and you have all these big dreams that never come true, one of those was to go play at Lambeau Field, to play on that field, preferably in the snow. And, you know, as far as I know, Lambeau Field's the only stadium, the only sports venue that has a celebration named after it.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. But you start thinking about all of the Hall of Famers, the all-time greats that played at both these places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're talking like Babe Ruth stepped foot in Wrigley Field. Bart Starr quarterback those 1960s Packers with all sorts of people, right? Ray Nitschke in
the championship trophy for the National Football League is named after the coach that coached at Lambeau Field.
That is true.
The Lombardi.
And Lambeau is named for Curly Lambeau, who was a heck of a coach in his time.
My man Curly.
I mean,
where's Mo and Larry when you need them?
This is a really I promise y'all, I'm not doing this to like build up the show. Like this is really, this is not that for me. This is really, really difficult because you're talking about someone who loves like sports history and there's just so much. I even have this thought of, what was it? NFL Quarterback Club 96. Does that sound right? Clackham.
Oh yeah, you know it.
Who was on the cover of that game? Do you remember?
I do. It was not only the only number 4, Brett Favre,
who played was a Packer and played at Lambeau Field. Gosh, dog, this is difficult. Listen, I promise you, this is not me building up dramatics. Like I'm really struggling to put one of these out.
So let me interject here, Kyle, to make it even better for you. So I picked Lambeau. The Twitterverse, 69% of the vote, Kyle, goes to Wrigley. So we are tied at 1. So you get to break the tie.
Oh, this is difficult.
Do we need to move on and come back and finish the show with this?
I promise you, this was not planned. This is just really difficult for me to pick one because
let's table it and we'll come back. We'll finish. I'll let you collect your thoughts. We'll finish the show. All right, let's move on to the Yankee Stadium bracket. We've got Yankee Stadium, the 1 seed against the Louisiana Superdome, the 4 seed, home of to the Saints go marching in. I will vote first. Kyle, been to the Superdome several times. Saw a man pull down his pants there. Saw Kentucky win an SEC championship there. Thought I was going to see Kentucky win a national championship there. It's a great venue. But for me, when you talk baseball, it's Yankee Stadium, and I think it's when you encompass all of Yankee Stadium and what it has been in the past, the future, and the present, it's Yankee Stadium. So I'm going Yankee Stadium. What's your vote, Kyle?
I just want to make sure everybody sees the shirt. Okay, and look, the hat matches. Like I'm there. All that's there.
But
I don't need new Yankee Stadium. I don't need what it could turn in. I don't need any of that. I don't need the house that Jeter built. there's only one Yankee Stadium that matters. That's old Yankee Stadium. It's the house that Ruth built. It's Babe. It is the Babe. It is. I'm a Saints fan. I love the Superdome. I've been there. It's not a great stadium as far as like we were up high and you felt like you were kind of leaning forward, watching it from Sky Dome or
Yep.
Yeah, Yankee Stadium.
And Yankee Stadium, 72% of the vote on Twitter as well. So Yankee Stadium will move forward. Probably the most intriguing matchup of two that I did not have getting here, and one definitely probably underseeded for both of these. But the 14 seed Caesars Palace against the 10 seed Maple Leaf Gardens. This is the closest vote on Twitter that we had, Kyle. 60% of the vote goes to Caesars Palace. Moving on in that, Kyle. I'm going to vote second.
Okay.
And Kyle, as a lifelong fan of the Canadiens, it's just kind of hard for me to vote anything for those dirty Maple Leafs. So Kyle,
lifelong.
Absolutely. I know my first words out of the womb were "Les Canadiens," and my parents were like, "What?" My dad was looking around like, "Sherry's or something you need to tell me." So I'm going Caesars Palace, Kyle, and you don't even get a vote. But had you voted, what would you have voted for?
I was voting Caesars Palace. That gives us a 14 seed in the Elite Eight.
It's the Cinderella story continues for Caesars Palace, although maybe not so much a Cinderella story if you really think about it. All right, we're going to the final region over here before we get back to your Lambeau Wrigley vote. The 1 seed, St. Andrews, the home of golf, against the 4 seed. It's been our favorite so far, the Philadelphia Spectrum. Kyle, I'll let you vote first here.
Look, I've said it every week, and I'm gonna say it again. You know, Rocky and Apollo Creed fought at the Spectrum, and that's been enough to get it through to the Sweet 16. It got them through that first weekend, but that was the first weekend. Now you got to go up against St. Andrews.
Now's where the big boys come in.
Yeah, look, you got through Camden Yards, Barnabo, a 12 and a 13 seed. Congratulations, you got through the first weekend, but now you got St. Andrews.
This is much like the WCW back in the day, Kyle. It's where the big boys play.
It is where the big boys play.
Yep.
And you know what? Philly Spectrum, you're just not big enough. And that is what she said.
It is what she said. And she also said it's named the St. Andrews region for a reason. The number 1 seed, 79% of the vote goes to St. Andrews on Twitter. I would have voted St. Andrews as well, and we will move them on. So our last matchup before we get your last vote, Kyle, another very intriguing one here. It's another football, baseball. You've got the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. It's the Rose Bowl against Fenway Park and the Green Monster, and my terrible Boston accent that goes along with it. I'll let you vote first, Kyle.
So this one was difficult. I'm not gonna lie.
Please don't lie to us. That's not very nice.
It was very difficult. Fenway. I mean, obviously it's Fenway. It's Boston Red Sox, and all of the history there, including the curse of the Bambino. You got the Green Monster. You got Bill Buckner letting the ball go between his legs. All the good stuff there at Fenway. But one of the first things that popped in my head when I think Fenway, I believe Boston hosted the All-Star game. That, what was it, 98 season was McGuire, Sosa hitting all the, and Griffey hitting all the bombs. I believe, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe Fenway hosted the All-Star game, and you had McGuire and Sosa in the home run derby. And McGuire, I remember McGuire just hitting bombs over the monster because here's your 6'4", 270-pound Goliath just hammering and hitting balls over the street. I mean, just behind the save, ridiculous. But But the Rose Bowl, it is the most historic bowl game in college football. And I told you earlier, my heart just sits with football. So I'm going Rose Bowl.
A couple of things that I'll get to in reaction to that, and I'll get to them in just a second. I'll go ahead and give a teaser. So the tweeters out there, our Twitter followers, 62% of the vote, Kyle, goes against you, goes to Fenway for this one. So that means I break the tie. Kyle, as I thought about this matchup, I mean, we could talk all day about the history in both of these places. I mean, there's just you talked about the people that stepped foot in Yankee Stadium against the Superdome. I mean, it's just oh my gosh, like come on.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it last week. The movie with Jimmy Fallon and Reese Witherspoon or whoever it was.
Who was it? I'll think of her name in a minute.
Was it Reese Witherspoon or was it
it was Drew Barrymore.
Drew Barrymore, that's it. Fever Pitch, one of my all-time favorites at Fenway Park. But, Kyle, only one of these venues also has a parade that goes along with it. And I like a good parade. And for that reason, Kyle, I am moving the Rose Bowl on to the Elite Eight, where it will face St. Andrews for the shot at the Final Four. But Kyle, one last thing I'll tell you before we get to your pick for Wrigley versus Lambeau. We pride ourselves here on this show of being doing our homework, of facts being facts, of us just coming through. We got these stats left and right. We're just pulling away all the time, and man, you were committed to. You were committed to the 98
with a bat off
to the 98 All-Star game and the Home Run Derby being at Fenway Park. It was close, Kyle. It was actually at the Colorado Rockies Stadium in Denver, Coors Field. But
there's got to be. Hang on.
There's we usually do our homework on this show, or this is not like us to not be fully prepared. But I will give you credit, because had I not looked that up, man, you had me committed. Like you had me ready to go.
That's on me. Yeah. It was not the 98 season. It was the 99 season.
Okay.
I just looked it up. 99 Home Run Derby, Fenway Park. McGuire hits 13 in round one. Bombs over the monster. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I was off by 1 year.
Well, like I said, man, had I not looked it up, you're convinced. You were very convincing, and so if anybody else would have been listening to this, they'd been like, "Yeah, that absolutely was 98." Yeah, Fenway.
So,
all right, Kyle, we've got to get out of here. So I need a vote to move on to the Elite Eight. Is it Wrigley Field or is it Lambeau Field?
This breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart to send Lambeau Field home and move Wrigley on, and that fills my heart knowing that Wrigley gets to move on. If I had to guess, you're gonna hurt me next week when you push Madison Square Garden over Wrigley, but that's okay. Wrigley makes the Elite Eight.
You're moving them on.
I am.
All right, there we have it. So we have got a Elite Eight field set. We've got the 4 seed Maracana versus the 3 Augusta National, the 1 seed Yankee Stadium versus the 14 Cinderella Caesars Palace, the 3 seed the Rose Bowl against the 1 seed St. Andrews, and then the 1 Madison Square Garden against the 3 seed Wrigley Field. We will finish the Elite Eight next week, Kyle, and then in 2 weeks we will crown a champion of our best venue in sports bracket. It's been a long hoe to get here, but we're going to get this champion crowned.
So we got all 1 seeds still. No, we lost a 1 seed. Wembley got beat tonight.
Wembley went down. Special thanks to our good friends there in Brazil. I'm going to learn some Portuguese for next week.
Man, this has been a fun little bracket. I don't know if the listeners like it as much as maybe the cereal bracket. Cereal bracket was a little more lighthearted. This one's tough.
This is tough.
I mean, I personally, Madison Square Garden and Wrigley are two big time. That's tough. St. Andrews and the Rose Bowl. Like, man, we got all sorts of stuff going on next week.
We do, and we want to hear from you if you have been to any of those venues that we just mentioned. So Maracana, Augusta, Madison Square Garden, Wrigley Field, St. Andrews, Rose Bowl, Caesars Palace, or Yankee Stadium. If you've been there, we want to hear from you within the week. You can hit us up at Dads Watch Sports on Twitter. Let us know why you vote for that venue, or you don't. Maybe you didn't like it, and maybe you don't want to vote for it, but we want you to get in touch with us and let us know what you move on. We're looking forward to that, and we'll have that for you next week on Dad's Watching Sports, and we will see you then for episode 71, Kyle. We're in the month of July. It's an exciting time. It's hot.
Actually, that's July 4th.
It is July 4th, so it's America's birthday. I think,
It is.
We'll have to make sure we got an All-American Final Four maybe.
I may be doing this from my father-in-law's house. I think we're supposed to be going over there, so I may have to find a quiet spot there and
very nice.
and do this. So,
well, there you go, celebrating the 4th with family.
Oh yeah,
good way to go. All right, Kyle. We will talk to you next week, my friend.
All right, bud. Take it easy.
See ya.
This is Dads Watching Sports. It's the show by dads who watch sports, for dads who watch sports.